Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Marketing Roundtable, a BrainDo podcast. I am one of two hosts, Rachel Rhodes. I specialize in organic social media, and today, fellow co-host Tatiana is actually one of our guests alongside fellow coworker Andy. So what we're actually doing today is not focusing on one discipline, but we're focusing on websites, how to make one, why you need one, what to do with one. And as these two, as a designer and a web developer, both have their hands in site maintenance, they will be giving their own perspectives on websites. So let's dive in first with Miss Tatiana. Give us your background.
Hello. Hi, I am Tatiana, if you don't know me. If you do, welcome back. So I went into fine art and stuff as kind of a hobby and things I pursued. I went to Tyler School of Art at Temple, and from there I kind of luckily happened upon a job listing BrainDo had on our job network platform. They didn't require a cover letter, so I was like, boom, resume immediately. First one I submitted, and they were the first ones to get back to me, and then I also ended up taking the job. So it's like, wow, my first real application, and I'm still here. I guess we're approaching 5 years later.
Meant to be.
So yeah, I was able to apply some of my skills from art, transferable skills. I always planned on going into more of an advertising avenue because I liked that kind of lifestyle of the career more, with the kind of job stability and regularity of it versus kind of the more fluid artist life, perhaps. Yeah, they trained me up specifically with, in addition to your standard kind of digital design tools, with more site-specific UX things, and the rest is history. Fun facts about me as a person. I like reality TV. I often won't shut up about The Bachelor franchise, plants, and reading.
Thank you, Tatiana.
You're welcome.
For your background. Andy?
Cool. So I guess my background when I was in high school in the 90s, because I'm very old.
Deceptively.
I was really interested in making websites because AOL newsletters and stuff. And it's so knowing HTML was so rare that when my teacher saw that I knew how to make a website, I immediately was put on to create my school's website.
Really?
Because nobody else knew how to do HTML.
Wild. Origin stories.
Yeah. So when I went to school, I thought graphic design, because there wasn't a clear, you make websites, this is the website thing. So I went into graphic design and I realized I hated it. It wasn't really for me. It was I think I was the second color theory class, and I was just I hate this so much.
I was just about to be was it color theory?
And I realized that the degree wasn't really for what I wanted to do. So my school had something called interactive media that later became interactive media and web design. And essentially it was motion graphics, things like that. But it also included video editing, audio,
fun,
basic animation, and a lot of Flash. Flash was the big thing. That
oh
was
my God.
Flash is the future. And so you all have to learn Flash, and that really worked out. And so that transitioned from Flash to web. But I really knew I wanted to make stuff on web pages and people to interact with it. That's my origin story, I think.
That's really fun. So right out of school, did you start in the web space?
So first I got an associate's degree, and I was I'll just teach myself the things I need to learn. And then I realized I had no motivation to do that. And I didn't have enough experience to actually work in the field, and I was really not so confident. So I went back to school and got a bachelor's and really focused and did really well.
In coding stuff?
So at that point, once I got my associates, the bachelor's was more focused on some development. At that point, they're hey, JavaScript is a thing you need to know, and PHP. So a lot more of that on the building blocks to content management systems, and later WordPress, which is now the most used thing for creating a website.
Interesting. So, does everyone need a website? I have a family member, a business owner, does not have a website, virtually no digital presence. And that still surprises me every time I like remember that he has no digital presence.
Yeah.
So what would you say to the question, does every company or brand need a website?
Well, like, no. Obviously, your uncle. Did you say it was your uncle?
I didn't, but it is my
uncle.
uncle. No, it is my uncle.
Oh, psychic
I was like,
powers.
I can't remember if I'm recalling this from a different time you talked to me about it or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Shout out Uncle Tom.
You know, if you're not using online marketing to grow your business and you don't need to rely on it, then like, yeah, you don't really need a website. But if you are looking to use the internet as, you know, a main way to bring in work opportunities, then like, yeah, it can be super helpful. You'd show up, you know, in searches, things like that, and you can have landing pages for paid ads. You can publish, you know, custom content to your site. You can do a lot of these things on other platforms that like exist already, and you can kind of just do your little thing, you know, like Etsy or I can't think of another one. But there's lots of options out there that can kind of, you know, you can scale it to what works best for you, what you need to do, and ultimately like what your goals are.
Right, because I think not having a website, like my uncle's business, really survives off of word of mouth. If you don't think you kind of, you know, have the juice to survive off of word of mouth, I think absolutely turn to the online presence.
Yeah.
Start a website. So I know Andy brought up WordPress. We've all probably heard Squarespace ads on other podcasts. What are some other types of websites or hosting tools that are out there? Or what are the differences between them even?
I think the only other like big like web hosting tool that's similar to Squarespace would be Wix.
Oh, yeah.
Probably a couple others that I'm just blanking on.
Yeah.
But
I kind of forgot about Wix.
things like Squarespace and Wix are good if you have no idea about anything technical. You don't want to bother with that. You just want to use a template builder and like take a photo with your phone and then upload it. And, you know, you don't care that your website takes, 23 seconds to load a gigabyte photo in the highest resolution because you don't understand how to make the photo smaller. Like that's perfectly okay. You can totally do that. And I think 90% of the web, like most things, that's fine. Like if it's your family restaurant, it doesn't matter. People just want to Google your PDF menu that they're angry as a PDF.
Yeah.
And just see what you have, right?
Yeah. If they really want to go there Sunday night, they're going to wait for the image to load.
Yeah, right?
So what would you consider, because that sounds like, the very DIY approach. What are some things to consider when considering like DIY website templates versus like maybe a custom build or turning to an agency like us?
I think the first thing to consider is your own ability. If you're not technical at all, like if you have to ask your kids to make you a Facebook page, like you probably are better going with like a Squarespace or a Wix.
For your kids to manage.
Yeah, for your kids to manage as you guilt them into doing free labor for you. But if you're more technical and you're willing to like invest time, I think even like those solutions are pretty good for like the small businesses that just need to get a word out there and maybe doesn't even need a website, but you want it so that somebody can like search it or find it or see that it's a legit business.
Yeah.
I think if you're more willing and you have more expectations, that like WordPress is like a really easy method for like putting content on the web, and like it's just like personally I think WordPress is just better in almost every situation, unless you're planning on only managing your content. You're the only person that's going to be in there and you're willing to learn. Yeah, I'm sorry, that question got away from me. I'm just like rambling at this point.
No, it's fine. I remember one of my, like when I was in my like senior year, like you're about to graduate, final of the final classes, it was required to have a website. And I thought that was so silly because you have to like pay for it. And so I think it was a Wix website, and I just did like the lowest amount of effort because I had to have a website, but it was really easy for someone like me to just like throw up images, write something about myself. I also remember at a past job, I was in charge of updating the blog on WordPress. And that was a fairly simple learning curve. It did have its limitations. Like I found myself after a couple months being like, oh, I really want to do this. And like the developers being like, we can't. So in situations like that where you're ready to take like that next step and kind of customize a site, how would you go about that route?
I would definitely recommend WordPress because it's significantly more flexible and it tends to be a lot easier using WordPress's content management system because it's like WYSIWYG editor, which means what you see is what you get. So it's like if you use Microsoft Word, you could probably use WordPress. You just copy and paste your content. It's a lot easier. And then you have the ability to like make a lot of changes and like develop a theme or a child theme, which is like a branch off of an existing theme. And there's like all of these routes you can go. And also because WordPress is open source, there's like millions of users. It's like the most used thing for a website, period. So if you get stuck and you can Google it and somebody has answered your question and gone 4 or 5 steps past what you didn't even think you needed to know, which is really helpful when you're trying to like troubleshoot your own issues, you know?
Yeah. Well, let's say you're tired of troubleshooting and you're just like, I'm going to hire a freelancer.
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
Going the freelancer route is good if you know exactly what you need, because like a freelancer will just do what you pay them to do. Whereas like going with an agency is a larger investment, but you tend to get more back from it. You know, they might consider SEO and like who sees this and how to get the right eyes on your website. Whereas a freelancer would be like, you want a picture of your bunny on this website for Italian food. Okay, you got it.
Yeah. We've already touched on some of the like benefits versus limitations of these different platforms. But then to like dive into more like who's doing it and what route you can go if you need support or maybe not. If you're going the DIY route, like Andy already touched upon, it's a really great option if you're like a small business. You know, you're planning on doing it all yourself. You, especially if you maybe have a lot of like rotating inventory or updates and you're going to have a lot of regular kind of maintenance things that you don't necessarily have the resources to like employ somebody to make updates to, if that's something that you don't, you know, you want to use something that you feel comfortable making those changes yourself. And a lot of, you know, if you're going to like Squarespace, Wix route, I'm not as familiar with Wix, but
I feel like they fell off.
Yeah, they were like really big on as a sponsor for so many YouTube videos, and then they just dried up. They have like a lot of customer support generally, but like the main drawback is it's not as custom. So do you need something custom? Maybe you don't, and you can do custom coding in these platforms, but sometimes that can impact the customer support, you know, if they'll let you. I think it can like invalidate some of that stuff. So you'd want to be really careful to make sure that if you're in there messing with the code or not messing with doing great, wonderful things to add to the code, and then you have an issue or a hiccup that they may no longer help you.
Yeah, I think you touched on a thing that people can overlook is like the support on some of the more self-contained sites like Squarespace, where if you found like a snippet of JavaScript online and you want to add it to your website and then you have an issue, like the support for Squarespace might say, oh, well, you have all this custom code, we can't help you with your template. And that would be a big bummer if it's just you trying to figure out things.
Yeah. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. But definitely if you don't have the budget for ongoing support, like hiring people, then it is probably still the best way to go, even if you do end up hiring somebody to help you set it up in the first place. Then you have freelancer options, right? Freelancers. Should you hire a freelancer? So this is kind of the next step up. And I mean, freelancer or freelancers is one of the kind of big things here. Like, I'm sure you could find somebody who can do everything you need, but depending on what you want, it might touch upon multiple different disciplines, from having, the right content, copywriting, design, development. All those things can be entirely different people.
SEO.
You can even have more than one developer, like for front end and back end.
True. True.
How many? And you can have people who do both and
full stack,
full stack baby.
That's probably more expensive to hire as well if they're full stack. Yeah.
So wide variety of abilities, price ranges. You can find something that works for you, but you just want to keep in mind that you might be working with a bunch of different people that can be a wear on your own time if you're coordinating all those different people, handing off different things, someone being like, oh, I don't have what I need, them going back, you have to like get everything all lined up. Benefits of a freelancer, outside of it being potentially like your more cost-effective option, is that you avoid overhead of an agency, which once again is one of the reasons the price is lower, and you get that step up of having somebody with experience and expertise to help you through it. And also you can get a more custom result if if you're getting a custom coded website or something. Another drawback to keep in mind, in addition to like the coordination efforts or maybe working with multiple people, is that maintenance. If down the line something is wrong with your website or you need something updated, depending on like their contract or how they work with people, maybe they have like a support clause or something, but they also might not. You might not have anybody there to make those updates or remedy what's going on for you.
I didn't even think about that. Like if you had a freelancer set up your site with Flash and now suddenly Flash is obsolete and you're like, help, and like they're unavailable.
Yeah.
Yikes. Flashbacks
to clients with Flash-based websites and they need to update something and you can't because it's all images.
Yeah.
Or
I don't know what that
MS
means.
Paint block right there where the new images.
RIP Flash.
Yeah. I mean, outside of like overall updates or like technology evolution, like if something breaks, whoopsie, I don't know, maybe it's just, yeah.
You need someone who knows code to look at that. If you don't know code, you can't fix that.
Yeah. And then obviously that brings us to an agency, which is kind of the highest tier that we're talking about. We are an agency, so maybe it's a little biased, but
definitely a little biased.
There are some great benefits of working with an agency. Obviously, if it's not for everyone, if you don't have the resources and like the budget for it, but if you do, it's really great to get that fully customized site, if that's something that you want and need. And you get that, like I mentioned with freelancers, you're reducing overhead, but part of that overhead is valuable in that you get more resources. You have a fully staffed, multidisciplined team in-house to coordinate. They're working directly with one another. If something comes up and it's like, oh, I thought this was a dev issue, but actually let's say it was an SEO issue and turns out it's like a dev related because it's something to do with the server. Like that happened recently.
Yeah, I think one of the big strengths about going with an agency versus trying to figure out what you need by freelance is an agency will know what you need. So if you have an idea and you don't necessarily know how to execute it, an agency will be there to help you walk through the steps, or at least a good agency, it would be there to help you walk through the steps of what you need and give you a better idea and then execute it for you.
Yeah. And not only do we have like the connections in our company of ourselves to like work with one another, we also have other connections with like sister agencies or freelancers that we know. So you have like a really robust support system to take care of these things for you. And it takes a lot off your plate as far as like having to deal with a whole website or anything else that comes with it. You can do so much.
Or multiple freelancers that aren't communicating with each other.
Right. It's
like
still
we're
really
used to
on
communicating.
Yeah. Like I can always be like, hey Andy, is this like okay? Like, is this gonna super increase dev time? Or is this idea, how long will that take? Because I want to like stay within budget, and like even checking things like that. If you have like a designer and a freelance and a developer who aren't working together as freelancers and not communicating, and there's something that the developer's like, oh, this is going to take a bunch of time to do. Does it still fit within your budget? It's like, well, now you have to go back to design and change things. We're constantly checking in, coordinating, etc. And it helps a lot. And it also does save time within the agency ultimately, because like I know how to like prepare stuff for our developers, because like we do it all the time.
Yeah, I think when we get like a design that isn't in-house and it's like a single PDF that is like 12 pages long and like none of the art assets are exportable, and like it's a nightmare. And it's like, I don't want to recreate your art asset from scratch with like Shutterstock watermarks on it. It definitely helps when the designer knows what they need to design for the web to create the website you want.
Yeah.
The agency is that machine. Like we all represent different parts that kind of run smoothly together.
Yes. We're all cogs in the machine in a good way.
Yeah. So
we're not brainwashed.
Right. And also with an agency, although I'm saying one of the great benefits is you can have this super custom site that can do like crazy wild things. Like we can also scale deliverables to your budget. Like while we do these like grand projects are super fun and great, we've also done highly precise projects where like we're just going in on a Squarespace site to do UX improvements and things like that. So we can really do a whole range of things, and also we're usually here, depending on your contract, for support should things come up. If there's any technical issues or bugs, I feel like this is right. Like I feel like there is a story of one time when like someone's website crashed and everyone like hauled ass to get it together. Do you like remember that? Can you talk about that?
It happens a lot, like more than you would expect. Like a lot of times clients domains will expire and they don't realize they need to renew them.
Oh wow. So
suddenly they don't own the domain that their entire website is based on. So like we have to scramble and re-register or renew or like make sure that it's paid for so that they can still be at their .com or whatever.
Have you ever had like someone else swooped in and took the domain?
We've never had it happen yet. Usually like depending on where you register, they might like give you a grace period of 30 days to
that's really nice.
Get it back.
That's great.
But other websites, like other hosting things, have like not had a great track record about you getting a domain cheap and then the domain is worth a lot more. So like GoDaddy has like not renewed people's domains because they know they can resell it. That's like something that happened in the past.
That sucks.
Yeah, it really does. Or another one that happened I remember is a guy whose last name is like very close to Microsoft. Like he spelled his name very similar, but it's said the same way. And Microsoft was like, no, you're infringing on us. It's like, it's my name.
Oh my God.
And they like, I forgot what happened when he ended up losing his domain.
Aw.
Which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But in general, if you lose your domain, usually you have a window to get it back. Like 99.99999% of the time you can.
That's nice to know.
Right. But it's great to have a team there.
Yeah.
Other times we've had websites just straight up crash because of like a traffic spike and like the scaling wasn't working. Like we use AWS for a lot of our websites, which is Amazon Web Services, and it's just like this all-encompassing thing that has all these different services for like anything you can think of you need for like web or any kind of digital stuff. And sometimes like you'll get a lot of traffic and we have a thing auto scaling that'll just like spin up more of these servers so you don't have to worry about your site crashing. But once or twice we've had an instance where the auto scaling didn't spin up correctly or something happened. It's just like, oh, hey, all of our websites are down. We need help right now. And it's like all hands on deck, and usually it's fixed really quickly.
But again, that's the perk of communication with an agency, that you can all rally together at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You have a team, a dedicated team.
It's definitely a lot easier to fix a website that goes down that you built in the first place. As where you have to be a detective and figure out where the domain's registered, where the files live. Are they the same place? Are they different? How do I get access to both of these things? It's like a whole detective work thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think maintenance is kind of a understated, very important aspect of a website. And when you're thinking about like, how do I want to have a website? How am I approaching it? Because like if you have a freelancer write a bunch of JavaScript and then something goes wrong that's in the JavaScript, you're just like, I don't know what I'm looking at. But that's really important. And if you ever have like, I don't know, even if something small, if it's like if you can't even change your own like language or something, even like a small word update to the copy, and maybe even if it is WordPress, which is kind of simple to use, but you have never been in it, you weren't set up in it, you don't know, then like that could be really daunting to approach and not have support. So maintenance.
Yeah, I think it's not as big of an issue anymore, but like years ago, like we would have clients whose like sister or like nephew built their website and they're an art student and like their website looks really cool because it's all one image. And then they're like, oh, this isn't my phone number anymore, but it's an image. It's like your whole website's an image. Like, oh my God. You need to either contact this person and have them recreate the entire image, update the original file, or just make a proper website that isn't a giant image.
Oh my God. I didn't know people did that.
It used to happen a lot more, like I said, with Flash and stuff too. Like everyone's like, oh, I'm a designer now. I can put my vision on the web, and then how do I update this when my number changes?
Oh my God. This podcast is powered by BrainDo, a digital marketing agency that not only provides a diverse mix of digital services, but offers guidance, experience, and true partnership to bring your business to the next level.
This episode was all about websites, but we also offer expertise in SEO, development, data analytics, and design, just to name a few. We've worked with businesses on every level, from local operations to Fortune 500 companies across a variety of industries.
We have experts to help strategize and execute your digital marketing needs, no matter what step in the process you're at. We're there for you, from wireframes to paid campaigns.
BrainDo, experts in everything digital. Please reach out today to learn more about how we can help your business grow. So then, what are some other design considerations for a website?
Great, thank you for asking. I mean, the two main buckets are like UX and UI when you're talking about building a site or app. We have a episode about that with Schwartz if you want to know more of like the basics of what they are.
Could you say what UI and UX stand for anyone who doesn't know?
Yes. UX is user experience and UI is user interface. When we're approaching UX, you want to talk about things like, what are you trying to get people to do on your site? Can I achieve my goals on an existing platform, or is this something really distinct and custom that I like really want? I don't do analytics, but analytics might be important on a site to like inform what's going on, like where people are going, where they might be dropping off in the funnel if you're trying to get conversions.
I do think it's worth noting that UX is like the structure of a site, like physically where buttons go and things.
Sort of.
We have to make it clear or people will continue to get them confused.
Everyone does get them confused, and it's just kind of...
I feel like the common lexicon of those terms is just they're mashed together as you touch or look at these things.
Yeah. Is like a lot of, even sometimes the way we explain it and the way I understand it, I've seen definitions that actually conflict with that as well. So,
really?
Yeah.
I feel like the art school equivalent is like Gestalt principles, where it's just like you ask somebody what that is, and then it's like everybody says something different.
I don't even know what that is. But
oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just gonna, we'll just, you can, Schwartz defined it kind of as UX being the architecture, structure, and UI being the interior design, if you're like liking it, comparing it to a house. But yeah, so UX, user experience, when you're trying to, figure out what's right for you, questions you should ask and work with whoever you're working with on this is, what are you trying to get people to do on your site? Can you achieve your goals with existing platforms, or is there something really distinct and super custom that you want and need? There's definitely analytics as a thing. I don't do analytics, but different platforms have different analytics capabilities kind of built in or that you can add. And how much of that needs to like get set up, and is it super important for your site? It can be super, super helpful knowing like the sales conversion funnel and where people might drop off, where people are navigating to on your site first, what they're interested in.
Also, just creating a sales funnel, like just having one versus like not having one, probably a good thing. Yeah.
Then there's also like A/B testing is a thing. I don't even know if you can do A/B testing on Squarespace or Wix. To be honest, we've never gone that far. I mean, if you have a client who like is on Squarespace, you're probably not running A/B testing because they have a budget that they're trying to do it on their own mostly. A/B testing is when you kind of design two different options. Sorry, I'm like holding my hands really high so they're not covered by my laptop. You have two different options, like an A and a B, and there could be different variables in it, but I'm a designer, so I'm talking about design. And you'll get like it'll be randomized who gets what when they visit your site, and then you can see which one performs better, if one leads to more clicks, things like that, and then implement that change on your site.
And from a developer standpoint of doing A/B testing, some of the changes could be easier or harder, but usually, you have a lot of options if you want to target specifically web or desktop or users of specific things, all stuff that a developer can help you with.
Yeah. And going back to sales funnel, which Andy mentioned, how unique and specific is your sales funnel? Like, is that something you can easily put together in a existing template, or do you need something more custom once again? We're talking more about the user interface, more of the kind of maybe colory things. So when you're considering the aesthetics, when you're considering, brand and longevity versus trends, I think that's really important if you're working with a designer and stuff that you're talking about this, because like how often are updates going to be made? How long is this website going to like last? Who will be doing those changes? Like a full website redesign should last a couple of years. Ideally, you shouldn't be doing it on a super regular basis. Like small updates, yes, but a full redesign, no. I mean, if you are looking to be like super, super trendy, and that's therefore kind of informing that, my response would be that like ultimately the visual aesthetic should be attached to your brand and your branding, and that should be evergreen. You want brand recognition. And
I think even as a user standpoint, whenever you come to a website and things are different, it's like immediately you're just put off, or at least I am. I know I hate when something changes that I've used all the time.
Right. Even when like there are UX updates, like when you load a site and it's like that used to be bigger font. I'm upset for no reason.
We don't like change. And trend cycles, we've talked about it it's been talked about so much, but it's also the same for site and design. Like trend cycles are getting shorter. So if you're, sticking to trends, that might not be the best thing, just long term. So you should really be going for something that will last a couple years and are attached to your brand versus acting on short-term design trends. Another thing to consider is ADA and accessibility. In design, we're mostly talking about color contrast and button sizes. But that is not the full expanse of it. There's tons more to do with it, and I'll cue it up, pitch over to you to talk more about it.
Sure.
But that's definitely not easy to navigate. Like the site, all the rules and things are really hard to understand. So if you want to, be cognizant and implementing those safeguards so that your site is accessible for different people, that is something that you really need to take into account. And not everyone actually designs to those standards. So you want to ask about it and make sure that you and your designer are on the same page with how you're approaching accessibility.
So ADA stands for American Disability Association
Act, maybe?
Put the right thing somewhere here. But essentially
Insert correct text.
Making sure that your website or web app is accessible and usable by somebody who may not be able to see or may not be able to operate a mouse in the standard way that most other people do. It's really about, from a development standpoint, it's making sure all of your content is accessible. Usually by like hitting tab. If you've ever gone to a website and you just hit tab a couple of times, you might notice that it highlights the links across the navigation. If you put on your screen reader, like Mac, there's like a command for it, and it'll just like auto enable a screen reader, and it'll be like website, and then it'll say the URL, and then it'll say, each link as you tab down or let it read through. Things like adding an option that's hidden to skip navigation is very helpful for somebody who is trying to navigate a website that has a massive menu and you don't want to hear every single link as you're trying to just see what the sports score is or whatever, or see if Bitcoin is worthless yet, or you're rich, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a major, it's very important for agency. I know here at BrainDo, we're trying to be as aware of it as we can be. And one of the things we always test for a new website is to make sure that we can use the website and give people the option to go through it. And there isn't a set standard of this is what you do. It's just, you have to understand the user's point of view and then trying to build something that works for them and still looks nice and matches your design.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work and nobody notices it.
Well, the ones that have to use it do.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question. I have seen yesterday, I saw literally yesterday, a UX designer actually posted a video. Someone had asked him, can you use AI to write code? What does that look like? And he had this funny auto tune of will AI take my job? So to someone that's can I use AI to write code? What do you say to that?
Yes, you could write code with ChatGPT. There's so many times where I'm trying to look for a solution. I'll just ask ChatGPT for it, and it gives me the solution, explains it. If I don't understand it, I'll ask it questions about specific things.
Really?
Yeah, and particularly if you're coming from one coding background and you're using a different one, knowing the language to ask and getting that snippet of code that's so specific to what you're trying to learn, it's that.
Wow.
It's used to say a lot of development is just going to Stack Overflow and copy and pasting whatever you find. ChatGPT is taking that concept and writing it well and then giving you all these things that you can further your knowledge, and then you can keep asking it questions. The only hard part is knowing what to ask. In HTML everything is an element, and then you have to transverse the DOM, they call it. If you don't know that terminology, it might be hard to ask the question, but if you know that terminology, there's literally I haven't run into too many things where ChatGPT can't give me a clear and concise answer. It's pretty crazy how good it is.
Wow.
I was not expecting that.
Well,
it's so good. Everybody, all the developers that are asked about is no, it's bad. It's not. It's really good. It's really good. They're all lying to you. ChatGPT is going to replace all of us. It's over.
Stop. No, oh my God. Okay. No. Okay. I have a question. So if you are a small business owner and you go to ChatGPT, can you just type in Build me a website.
It's the equivalent of your mom coming up to you and saying, can you access something on the internet for me? It's just like, you don't know what they mean. Like, it's too far removed. It's like, oh, you want a baking recipe that uses these ingredients. This is like, okay, I can find that. But if you just say, I want recipe online, can please help? Like that's not enough info. But if you go, if you're knowledgeable enough to be like, I need to know how to make a navigation that opens and closes when you click it using HTML and JavaScript. And I need the opening navigation to be a separate element that is outside of the navigation. You can ask ChatGPT that, and I'll give you an example that you could copy and paste and immediately use.
But you also have to have enough knowledge to deem if the answer it gives you is solid enough.
Quite a few hoops to jump through to ask that question in a relevant way to get a correct answer.
Right.
But usually when you get an answer that isn't usable, it's because you asked a dumb question, not ChatGPT gave you the wrong info.
Wow.
Okay, so your uncle should not go to ChatGPT and
No,
try to
he
build a
should.
website?
It'll be
He would
awesome. I
never.
can't wait to see the chain of websites of pizza places with like sponge people because ChatGPT thought it was a good idea.
Okay, so from, the do-it-yourself world of building a website to how in-depth an agency can get, I think you've really helped us understand what you could, like, the options out there for building a website. So what are 3 things you think anyone that's even considering, do I need to start having a website now, or like maybe I need to redesign my website? What are 3 things you would recommend to anyone in that space right now?
Yeah, so the top things to keep in mind when you're approaching this is like, what is your budget? What resources can you get with that? And then, make the best choice for you. It's not going to be the same for everyone.
I think the second one would be maintenance. Remember to keep your site updated if something changes, especially like those contacts. Those people overlook all the time.
Yeah, it isn't a one and done. It's an ongoing project. And lastly, like, what are your goals and what is the best way to reach them? You don't want to set out looking to increase, your online marketing and then ending up with a platform that doesn't actually meet the goals that you have. So just, if you have a good kind of approach and structure, most likely you will find the best path for yourself.
All right. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for being on the podcast, as if you're not here all the time. You can follow us, find us on social media, LinkedIn, BrainDo, Instagram, Brain.do, TikTok, Brain.do. You can you can connect with Tatiana and Andy on LinkedIn. They will be linked in the description box below. Thank
Follow
you
me
guys
on
again.
MySpace, Friendster,
Tumblr,
AOL, Instant Messenger,
creedthoughts.com.
MSN.
Yeah.
And see you next time at
The
Roundtable.